Hey guys, Matt, Legacy 4x4. Obviously, we got a new buggy chassis sitting on the left, and I might have dropped the Samurai sitting on the right. So I'm gonna go ahead and get this all figured out, get everything nice and situated, and tell you guys my big plans. Okay guys, first rule of this evening's work is don't judge the mess. I have everything torn apart, axles are leaking, coolants are leaking, everything's leaking. So don't judge the mess. We are working on the buggy project over there, but first thing first is we got to pull all the parts outside of the Samurai. So first things first, what that entails is yanking the engine and transmission. There is a divorce transfer case on Suzuki Samurai, so it's just gonna be engine transmission coming up first. As you can see from my growing bin of accessories and random collected junk for the buggy project, it is going to take a little bit to clean everything up and get organized. But lucky for you guys, I've already done quite a bit of work here, so I'm gonna go ahead and yank the engine and trans out, get it out of the way, pull my Sambox transfer case out of the Samurai, and move the buggy to the center. So okay, so don't mind the oil spill from the front axle, but we're a mess right now. This buggy actually had a change of plans. So this buggy frame is no longer going to get used for this project. I have another frame, another chassis that I'm going to use, which I think is way cooler. So as you can see, we are an absolute pigsty in the garage right now. We have axles torn apart. We have oil over the floor, which you probably can't see. I'm going to go ahead and tear everything else out of this red Samurai, the electric, the propane, gauges, hydraulic steering system, everything else I'm going to keep and transfer into the buggy chassis. I'm going to tear out, and I'll move the body out of the way with the tractor, and I'll have a nice clean slate. And I can talk through exactly the plans on what's going to happen with this red Samurai after I get there. But for right now, all of my garage, all of my shop is way too much of a mess. So I'm going to go ahead and blast all the way through this, and I'll come back together when I have a nice clean slate, and I can talk through exactly what I'm going to do. Alright, got both of them outside. I got the garage mildly cleaned up, so we're good to talk about what's next for the Samurai buggy build. I think it's so funny how full the yard fills up with junk projects and, you know, just random other stuff like tractors and ATVs, trailers, you know, nice old Jeep in the background there too. Okay, so this, my friends, is a sprint car chassis. Yes, I don't know what class it is. I got it for like 500 bucks, but it's complete for sprint car chassis. And I'm gonna try and fit all my Samurai goodies in it. The Samurai goodies will be the original 1.3 liter Samurai engine, original 5-speed. This is a tripler case. It's actually a boat transmission that we're gonna hook up in front of the transfer case, and it's gonna take the place of the intermediate shaft between the transmission and the transfer case. I'll get into more of that in the next video. For right now, all you need to know is that's a tripler. It's gonna be all-time 2.75 to 1 before the transfer case. So with this driveline setup, those 1, 2, 3, 4 components, and the 529 gears in this Toyota axles, I'm looking at about 400 to 1 crawl ratio in first gear, which is absurdly low. So I'm pretty stoked on that. We'll see how it works, but yeah, 400 to 1 final crawl ratio in first gear is going to be pretty gnarly. And again, since it's going on a sprint car chassis, I'm not really worried about drivability on the street. This is purely a toy, so we'll see how it works. So in order to get started on working with this sprint car chassis, I'm going to go ahead and take some measurements, see where all the driveline components are going to sit. Once I have a better idea of how much space the engine, the transmission, the tripler, and the transfer case is going to take up, I'll pretty much know exactly where I want everything to be. My main goal is going to be having the transfer case right at the back output right here, and then drive shaft down to the rear, axle. And in terms of planning forward, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to plan forward. I'm going to put the transfer case in, the tripler, and then the engine transmission combo with the adapter I'm getting machined. With that being said, first thing I'm going to want to do is skid plate that entire bottom. So I got a sheet of 1/4 inch for like $200 right now, which is great. Steel's going back down in price. So, and before you say don't weld it, just bolt it into the bottom so you don't have any workability there when you need to change fluids or something. I have a plan for that. And that plan is going to be just to plasma cut holes where I'm going to have some inserts below where the skid plate is, because I want it to be as flat as possible. So yeah, that's what I'm going to do, and I'll plasma cut holes for like drain plugs and stuff. So with that being said, first thing we're going to do is flip this over, weld in that entire skid plate. Okay, so before we get any further, let me just explain to you guys what we have going on. This is a Suzuki Samurai Sambox #2, the second generation of the Suzuki Samboxes. It is a direct replacement for a Suzuki Samurai transfer case, and it's made out of billet aluminum. This Suzuki transfer case is a little bit special. It has 8.5-to-1 super low gears in it. It has a rear drive shaft disconnected in case you want to do front digs, and it has twin sticks for easier shifting capabilities. The tripler setup I'm going to use is a boat transmission. This is a Velvet Drive 72C boat transmission. Boat transmissions are a little special, so it's basically just a gearbox with a couple wet clutches inside of it. But for my purposes, I won't be needing those wet clutches, so this boat transfer case is going to stay in neutral. I'm going to throw a cooler on it, and effectively, it's just going to be a 2.75-to-1 crawl box. The Velvet Drive transmissions do have forward, reverse, and neutral based on this detent right here. It's extremely easy to shift, and that's because in the marine application, the clutch is the water, so you're able to shift the engine at like idle. With that being said, this transmission was put behind stock big block Chevys and big block Fords and speedboats. And in case you didn't know, even the wimpiest big block Chevy can outperform my 1.3, probably 50 horsepower Suzuki Samurai engine. So this unit is extremely beefy, and it should turn out well for what I'm going to use it for. It should. We'll see if the application actually works. It's kind of a crazy idea of mine. If I was really good and a really good mechanic, I would blow this transmission apart and just use the planetary gearing in the back tail section, remove all the clutches, and kind of TIG weld the new case together on it. But I'm not. That's super complicated. And I should have enough space in this sprint car chassis to fit the elongated driveline of the extra like 2 feet that this transmission will add. Now, in order to mate the Velvet Drive transmission to my Suzuki Samurai transfer case, I have a flange to flange connection, both with different size flanges, so you can't just slap the flanges together, and I'm not going to do that anyways. Most people who run these doublers and tripler setups will modify the transfer cases and actually attach the cases together and couple the input gears and output gears together so it's one cohesive unit. But for me, that seems like a lot of work. I don't even know if this boat transmission is going to work in the long run. So short-term fix is going to be taking 2 drive shaft flanges and meshing them together. This is a 4 1/4 inch bolt circle. It's pretty common on 1310 U-joints. This flange is like a 2 1/8 bolt circle, pretty common on like CJ5 stuff, which is where this flange came from, a CJ5 front drive shaft. And it's coupled together with a greasable 1330 to 1310 U-joint. That being said, it's going to bolt flange to flange with a single U-joint. That's just kind of a quick overview because I'm pretty excited and I want to hear critiques on if this idea will even work. So yeah, enough explaining. Let's get to welding a skid plate on the very bottom of this. After measuring, it looks like I'll have plenty of wiggle room in order to fit everything, so I'm gonna go ahead and weld a skid plate along the full usable bottom and call it a day for this video. All right, so we have an upside down sprint car. Next step's gonna be clean all this off and go for some nice welding. This is gonna take a while to weld, but it'll be worth it, I think. So I'm gonna go ahead and tack weld this in and get to burning it in. All right, so we have most of it welded in. This middle part has a nice big fill weld and then, well, 3 fill welds and a cap, but there's one final touch. I'm gonna go ahead and burn that in. I'm realizing now that my LOL is a little off. Oh well, hopefully no one sees it. Okay, so sneak peek at next week's video. The video cut off at the end of this one, so that's it. Put the skip plate on, capiche, done. Next week we're doing lower link mounts with a lot of gussets. Should be fun. I think they look pretty good, so see you guys next week.